All right, Dalton, next up is our top 10 offensive linemen in college football heading into the 2024 season. We're combining tackles, guards, and centers into one ranking for our top 10 list. So we'll kick it off with our number 10 guy, and that is Donovan Jackson, the offensive guard from Ohio State. Was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, top 15 overall in the class of 2021. Really impressed as a true freshman. Didn't allow a single pressure all year on 36 pass blocking snaps, and he also was really dominant in the ground game as a sophomore with an 80.1 run blocking grade, which was 8th among Power 5 guards. Now, this past year, did have a little bit of a down year, 69.9 grade. But Dalton, you told me a stat before we even started recording that kind of puts into context a little bit how good he actually was. So he allowed 10 pressures, right, all year. 4 of them were against Riley Mills, who's we're going to get into probably as one of our top 10 D tackles in the country from Notre Dame. And then also the only sack he allowed all year was Mason Graham, who we'll get into as probably our number 1 defensive tackle in college football heading into next year from Michigan. So still a really good offensive guard. And since 2022, he's the 3rd most valuable returning Power 5 interior offensive lineman according to our wins above average metric. So Donovan Jackson, highly touted recruit coming out of high school, and he's really kind of lived up to the hype so far at Ohio State.
Agreed. Definitely an excellent player. And Ohio State has a long history of churning out interior offensive linemen. But I'm going to take our number 9 guy down to Jacksonville State. We've got their left guard, Clay Webb, the highest graded guard in the country over the last 2 seasons. Max, he's pretty much this year's Christian Haynes, right? Where he's just group of 5 offensive linemen that's going to wind up in the top 60 to 70 of next year's draft. He's a lot like Haynes, where he's a good athlete, but I actually think maybe take a half step off of that and give him a little more nasty. Clay Webb is a people mover, but he's also a really good pass protector. One of 2 guards over the last 2 years with 85-plus grades in pass protection and run blocking. The other guy, Christian Haynes, who got taken in the 3rd round this year out of UConn. He's just a balanced player. I believe a former high recruit who transferred there from Georgia for off-the-field reasons, but incredibly talented. One of just 3 offensive linemen last year who graded at least an 85 in pass protection and run blocking. And the other 2 were Joe Alt and Jackson Powers Johnson. Look, level of competition in Conference USA is really the only question mark. Only allowed 2 pressures all season, an excellent zone blocker. You can just see all the talent, all the potential. He's going to put together another great year at Jacksonville State this year, and he's really going to work his way into the conversation into the first 2 rounds of next year's draft, and possibly as the first guard taken in next year's draft.
Ooh, little tease right there. I think there's going to be a conversation for sure with him and the next guy on this list in Tyler Booker from Alabama, who checks in as our number 8 offensive lineman in college football, the guard from Alabama. Saw immediate playing time for the Crimson Tide as a true freshman. He played 427 snaps that year at both left and right guard, and he had an 89 pass blocking grade, which were tied for 4th in the country as a true freshman for Alabama. Now, he wasn't a starting guard for Alabama, but he did, like I said, play over 400 snaps as a backup, so still a significant amount of snaps. Became the full-time starter at left guard as a sophomore and improved his run blocking grade by more than 10 points. He had a 71.2 run blocking grade this past year compared to 59.6 the year before. So improved in the run game, has always been an excellent pass protector. He, in my opinion, is probably the favorite to be the first guard taken in the 2025 NFL draft right now. And Dalton, you're going to hate this. Our first 3 offensive linemen that we talked about were all former 5-star recruits in high school. Donovan Jackson, you mentioned before, Clay Webb was as well, going to Georgia. Now Tyler Booker was as well when he came out of high school. So, 3 5-star recruits, Dalton, to start off in our top 10 list.
I mean, they're all talented, and you can't blame the rankings for, we have them here in the top 10 of all offensive linemen. And honestly, this entire interior class was better than I thought it was going to be going into it. And one more stat on Booker real quick. Gave up 15 pressures last year. 11 of them came against stunts. Now, Alabama really had a problem blocking stunts last year, and Booker's really good when he just gets a straight-up one-on-one matchup. Mm-hmm. The good news for them, Alabama last year as a team was 52nd in pass blocking grade against stunts. Washington, obviously they had a lot of talent on the offensive line, but Washington, where Kalen DeBoer came from, they were 5th in the country in blocking stunts up front pass protection, especially now with his center, who we're about to get into in a little bit here, being next to him now, his new center. There's room here for Booker to get a lot better if his feet get better and mentally he gets right blocking schemes and stunts and things like that. And Kalen DeBoer is the right coach to improve him with that. Number 7 here, we're finally going to move out to a tackle. Left tackle at West Virginia, right? Right now in West Virginia, all the hype's on Garrett Green and big-time throws and Jaheim White and yards per carry, and they got an explosive offense, but the most reliable piece there is their left tackle, Wyatt Milam. 80.1 overall grade last year, 13th among all offensive tackles. This dude is a pass-blocking machine, right? We talk about true pass blocking grade a lot. An 89.6 true pass blocking grade last season was second behind Patrick Paul, who went second round in the NFL draft last year. As smooth a pass blocker as you could get, and a top 20 run blocking grade with a 76.5. There's only 3, even his run blocking is balanced, right? There's only 3 returning Power 4 offensive tackles with 70-plus grades when blocking gap concepts and zone concepts, okay? Will Campbell, Ariante Ursary from Minnesota, who's one of the best run blockers in the country, and Wyatt Milam. Wow. He's got a balanced game. He's an excellent, excellent pass protector. I'd say he's got above average feet, but his strength is off the charts, man. I'm telling you right now, if he gets his hands on you, he's a problem. People are going to look at him, if he has another year pass protecting like that, a lot like they looked at Patrick Paul this year, and just a really, really reliable piece at left tackle for West Virginia.
Yeah, dude, I think strength is the perfect way to put it. He is such a strong player there. And you could see, with him and Zach Frazier on that offensive lineman, they were mauling guys last year for West Virginia. So I'm a big fan of Wyatt Milam as well, and that's why he checks in there at number 7 on our list. The highest ranked guard on our list, Dalton, checks in here at number 6, and that is Tate Ratledge from Georgia. He really is the best guard in the country, in our opinion, because of how dominant he is as a pass protector. He had an 87.4 pass blocking grade this past season, 3rd among all Power 5 guards. He was also 3rd among all Power 5 guards with a 1.3% pressure rate allowed in the season. Also 3rd among Power 5 guards in pass blocking grade on true pass sets with an 83.8 mark there as well. So pass blocking grade, true pass sets really isolates offensive linemen to kind of see how they do, in kind of pure one-on-one situations. So it's a lot better to look at than pass blocking grade. And like I said, Ratledge was still elite in that category as well. And even back in 2022, his first year as a starter, man, he was 4th in pass blocking grade, and 4th and 3rd in pressure rate allowed, and 2nd in pass blocking grade true pass sets among Power 5 guards as well. So dominant pass blocker in both 2023 and 2022, and he is easily the best returning interior offensive lineman in the country in terms of pass blocking that we have in college football right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more stat on him. He's been in college football for 3 years. He started for 2 of them. He's never had a game yet with multiple pressures allowed. Always 1 or less. So just so consistent. You're right. The best pass protecting guard in the country right now, without question. With him and Dylan Fairchild, they may have the best pair of guards in the country down there in Athens as well. Number 5, we're going to move to center, sort of. So we've got Jonah Monheim from USC, who was their left tackle last year. He's got experience at right tackle, right guard, moving to center this year. And this was long expected. This year he's finally doing it. But look, top 10 pass blocking grades among tackles last year, top 10 true pass blocking grade, an excellent, consistent pass protector. And the more I thought about this, you've got a guy moving to center. He's got experience at guard. When you look at his snaps at guard, his grades come out almost identical to whenever he plays tackle, right tackle, left tackle, whatever. He's this year's Graham Barton, Max.
Ooh,
that's what he is.
Love it.
He can succeed at any position, at all 5 positions. Now, USC feels most comfortable with him at center. Barton didn't move back to center later after he started there his freshman year, so he's doing it a year sooner than Barton. Barton probably going to play center with the Bucs now, but Monheim can succeed anywhere, especially in pass protection. He's just a good, fundamentally sound offensive lineman that USC loves. And keep in mind, these high pass protection grades with Caleb Williams having the 11th highest time to throw in the country last year. So had to hold it down for a long time, a lot of pressure on him, and USC throwing the ball a lot last year. Monheim's a really good pass protector wherever you put him. He's got experience all over the line. That's the best comp I have for him. He's this year's Graham Barton.
Dude, it's amazing how good he was playing tackle and guard, and sometimes playing tackle and guard in the same season for USC, and he still was dominant. He, in my opinion, is easily the most underrated offensive lineman in the country. I don't see a lot of people talking about him. He is so good, man. And now, I mean, quite literally going to play basically all 5 positions for USC in the offensive line. So he's going to be one of the most versatile players, and I think a really talented one whenever he enters the NFL draft, most likely next year. But at number 4 now is Johnny Cornelius, the offensive tackle from Oregon, who actually was a very coveted player in the transfer portal when he was coming out of Rhode Island, out of the FCS level. Was really good at Rhode Island, and he translated over to Oregon really well, and which is why he's so high on this list. He had, as Oregon's right tackle this past year, he didn't allow a sack or a hit on any of his 115 true pass sets. He is such a good pass protector. He only allowed a pressure on 2.1% of his total pass blocking snaps this past year, which is the lowest rate of any returning Power 5 tackle. He and Josh Connerly Jr., who we didn't talk about in this list, but is a really good left tackle for Oregon. Probably the second best offensive tackle duo in the country behind LSU, in my opinion. And Johnny Cornelius is the biggest reason for that. So Oregon's right tackle here will be kind of the blindside blocker for Dylan Gabriel next year because he's a left-handed quarterback, a southpaw. But Johnny Cornelius is absolutely deserving to be on this list, and in our opinion is the best right tackle in college football right now.
That's right, Max. So right tackles are people too. And now at number 3, we're going to get the best center in the country. And that's transfer from Washington to Alabama, along with Kalen DeBoer. And that's Parker Brailsford, man. Look, he's a little bit small, but he's really athletic. And we've seen this blueprint starting to work in the NFL now when you look at guys. Jason Kelsey really started it, right? A little bit smaller, but really athletic. I'm not saying at all that Brailsford is Kelsey. Nobody is. He might be the best ever, but there's other guys in the NFL like that now, like Drew Dahlman for the Falcons, for example. Even Drake Nugent from Michigan last year, who I thought should have been drafted. I was surprised he wasn't drafted. A little bit smaller, but what you have now is these athletic centers who can block in the zone game so well. And Parker Brailsford, man, a 90.7 zone blocking grade last year, leads all returning offensive linemen coming back to college football this year. He's really athletic. He's a good enough pass protector. He only allowed 1 sack last year. He's a little bit small. Some of the bull rushes in the SEC might get to him, but I'll tell you what, he's got 2 giant guards next to him who are going to help him with that, including our number 8 guy, Tyler Booker. But I think Brailsford is going to bring that dimension and pass protection that Alabama needs to stop all those stunts and blitzes and things that everybody throws at him. On top of the fact, again, just a spectacular run blocker. To watch him, especially in the outside zone game, is so much fun. He makes it. There's not too many centers that make a massive impact in the run game like that. He does, and it's with his footwork and his athleticism. He's the best center in the country. He's staying with his coach. He's going to Bama, where he's surrounded by a bunch of huge guys who can help him out. Parker Brailsford is going to be really good in Tuscaloosa this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have easily the best interior offensive line. I actually put out my offensive line rankings today, Dalton, and Alabama came in with the number 1 offensive line in the country because I think their interior is special, dude. I mean, you mentioned Brailsford, we mentioned Tyler Booker already. Jaden Roberts, we didn't mention, also made my top 10 interior offensive lineman list. So all 3 of their interior offensive linemen were in my top 10, which is absolutely ludicrous. And then Caden Proctor coming back at left tackle too. Alabama is going to be loaded offensive line next year. And yeah, Brailsford is small, really small. In fact, he's 275 pounds, which is still like 20 pounds lighter than Jason Kelsey, who's one of the smaller centers. So definitely got to pack on some pounds for the NFL, man. But he's still such an athletic player, and why he's the number 1 interior offensive lineman on our list. Not too much of a shock who's number 2 and number 1, Dong. These are pretty clearly, in our opinion, the 2 best offensive linemen in college football. And at number 2 is Kelvin Banks Jr., the left tackle out of Texas. Started as a true freshman in 2022, looked really good as a pass blocker, and then continued that this past year at an 86.8 pass blocking grade in 2023, which was second among returning Power 5 tackles. Only allowed a pressure on 2.3% of his pass blocking snaps. Again, second among returning Power 5 tackles. And he was the 6th most valuable tackle in the nation, or according to our wins above average metric. Now, the run blocking is very inconsistent with Kelvin Banks Jr., but a stat that I love pointing out with him is that he had 12 big-time blocks in our system, which are our highest-graded blocks. The only tackle in the country who had more was Talisa Fuanga, who was a top 15 pick in the NFL draft, and we all talk about how dominant of a run blocker he is. So he has flashes of dominance on tape, really athletic player, And Dalton, honestly, the more I watch Calvin Banks Jr. over the last week or so, I think it's a 1A, 1B for this list, man. I really do. I think they're going to be fighting each other to be OT1 in the 2025 NFL Draft. And if I'm a betting man, I think both these guys that we're going to talk about in just a second are going to be top 10 picks in the NFL Draft as well.
I absolutely agree, and it really depends on the flavor of what you like in an offensive tackle, right? Banks brings pure pass protection, athleticism, zone blocking, and he's got a mean streak, man. You're absolutely right with those big-time blocks. If he gets his hands on you and rolling, his lower body strength is nuts. He can just flatten you out. Then you've got our number one guy, the left tackle at LSU, Will Campbell, who we projected, I think, third or fourth overall in our mock draft.
Third to the Patriots. Yeah, third of the Patriots, yeah.
Yep, so the highest graded returning power 4 tackle at an 82.8 last year. Fifth best run blocker in the country. The best run blocking tackle in gap schemes last year. So fundamentally sound, powerful inside in the run game. Solid pass blocking grade at 77.9 with 0 sacks allowed. And I'm just so impressed with the balance and just how fundamentally sound Campbell's game is. And to me, the only thing he has to do to really solidify this number one spot by the end of the year is just if he gets stronger this offseason and, because you look at, he gave up 17 pressures last year, and you look at the types of guys he gave up pressures to. 7 of those 17 were to Jared Verse, Chris Braswell, and Darius Robinson. Those are all big, powerful bull rush type of rushers, right? Yeah. As long as Campbell doesn't let elite pass rushers get in his chest, like speed rushers, they don't really bother him too much. Like reps against Dallas Turner wasn't a huge problem. He actually struggled with Braswell more than Turner because of his strength. Braswell's actually the stronger of the two, right? Or a Jared Verse, who's just got freak strength with his length, and actually a former running back, which is nuts. But yeah, that's the only real flaw with Campbell is just kind of the power rushing. But if he continues to get stronger, he's very much like Joe Alt, just the most fundamentally sound offensive tackle in the country. Even last year there were opinions between Alt and Fashanu and Fawaga and who had the highest ceiling and the most potential and things like that. But Campbell's so fundamentally sound that there's almost no way he could be lower than number 2 on any offensive tackle list next year.
No, absolutely not, man. He has been unbelievably dominant. He was great as a true freshman as well. That year, he had an 85.6 pass blocking grade, true pass sets. Only Peter Skoronski had a higher grade that year among Power 5 tackles, and that was when Campbell was a true freshman, man. So, Will Campbell and Calvin Banks Jr. clearly are top 2 offensive linemen in college football. But that's our entire top 10 list for the offensive linemen in college football, tackles, guards, and centers heading into the 2024 season. Be on the lookout for a player breakdown on both Will Campbell and Calvin Banks Jr. We're going to dive even more into their game, and as well as many other college football-centric videos that come out very, very soon. So we'll see you guys next time.